Hi, Madam Chair. For the record, Carl Wilson, House District 3, Grants Pass. I want to thank you for agreeing to hear the bill, House Bill 2835. I know you didn't have to do it, and I appreciate the fact that you did. I'm not an educator in the traditional sense. I'm not even highly educated, as a lot of people have figured out by now. But yet, I want to speak from where I come from. I want to tell you about my interest in Common Core, and I want to be quick today because the real stars of the show here are the people who have driven many miles to get here today to testify. So if you'll allow me to speak my piece and depart quickly, I'd appreciate that. My interest in Common Core began to spring up when I announced my candidacy for office, and I immediately met a lot of new friends, some people that I'd known for some time, who spoke to me about Common Core and what it was in the process of doing to their children. I think if you read the pieces of literature that we have received from many of our constituents that is available to all of us, you will be amazed at the graphic terms that many of these parents describe as to what is happening with their children. In the course of my investigation on this, yes, I did venture onto the internet and checked out YouTube and saw some mathematic problems being done, and it gave me a sinking feeling as I remembered a time in my own youth. It was my middle school years, about 1965 or 1966, when I was victimized by something called new math. I was a good student in math until that point in time, but after my adventure with new math, I lost my confidence in numbers, lost my confidence, which is something that we need to be careful for when we talk about our children and our students. I lost my confidence in math and for years wouldn't even come close to a checkbook anymore because of that. And I attribute that directly back to my experience with new math. And so what I saw exampled there and what I've heard exampled is much the same. I'm old enough now where I've seen many, many different federal programs come and go, including state programs, SIM and CAM, which is an embarrassment as we look back on that. No Child Left Behind, just another federal program that is failing. This is going to be the very same thing. It's going to be another program that is a massive experiment that costs a tremendous amount of money, that damages the confidence of a generation of school kids. As I say, I am not an educator. I run a small business. I inherited over a period of time a family business that is in operation for the last 58 years. The last 2 and 3 years have been the most successful years in our entire run of this family business. I look at everything through the lens of business. And if I happen to see in a ratings period, and my market is so small it's only rated once a year, but when my ratings come out and I see that my ratings are plunging, I realize I've got a problem. I've got difficulty. I've got rebellion in the ranks. When I see that people aren't listening to my radio station anymore, that's a sign of trouble, because that means before too long people are not going to be advertising on my radio station any longer. And so when I have rebellion in my customer base, it is going to get my attention. And what I'm saying through this bill, we've got rebellion in our customer base. It's undeniable when you take a look at the portfolio of letters that we're getting from parents, we're getting from teachers, we're getting from grandparents. And speaking of grandparents, the other night I was taking 2 of my grandchildren across the Marion Street Bridge, and I asked the typical question, did you have fun in school today? No. What did you learn? Nothing. Come on.
No, they always say that.
I know you guys better than that. And so we began talking about what they learned in school, but really all I heard, and I got to tell you, I was absolutely stunned by this, all I heard was smarter balance testing. And I know we're not specifically talking about smarter balance, but we understand the relationship today between Common Core and smarter balance. And I was absolutely amazed that a 13-year-old girl and a 10-year-old guy were as literate in the nomenclature of testing as these kids were. I was stunned. They weren't telling me about the joy of learning, the fun of learning. They were talking to me about assessment tests. That was a new experience for me. I've been in the process of forming my opinion about Common Core and smarter balance testing for some time. But I was drawn, and several of you, in fact, Representative Frederick made sure that I knew about Dr. Zhao, who is testifying on the Senate side, February 20 of this session. I would encourage everybody to go take a look at what that man had to say. And basically, he said, among other things, the testing culture is destroying creativity in our children. He is not alarmed in the slightest that we continue to have the situation of other nations' school kids looking better than ours at testing. In fact, he even pointed out in China, where of the millions of students who are graduating from higher ed in China every year, they've recently been told, as they are progressing up the ladder through their post-secondary education, hey, drop out. You guys drop out and go find a business, go develop a business, go do something entrepreneurial. And that is something that's been characteristic with our nation and our education system for years. We typically score lower than other nations, but yet this is the home of creativity. And what my fear is that what our children are being subjected to with Common Core education and the summative testing that they're going through is killing their creativity. And I am sorry for the teachers as well. What a life that must be when you have these young children who always have tremendous creativity in their kindergarten years, but studies show they begin to be sapped of their creativity the older that they get. And there's got to be a reason for that. And I say it must be terribly frustrating for a teacher in this process to see this kind of situation where you are trapped in a testing regimen, which is really always the subject of the day. You're trapped in a testing regimen that prohibits you from being as creative as you would love to be with children who have an unlimited ability to learn and to love to learn. And I think most of us sitting here today would say there's probably nothing more exciting than seeing the love of a child when it comes to learning, and also the enthusiasm of a teacher who is not encumbered with such things as Common Core and Smarter Balanced testing. In summary, to me, this is just another federal experiment. And we have just done this over and over and over. I love local control. I love your local school boards being responsible for what is going on in education, because you can always get to them. You can always talk to them. What if these standards are wrong? And there's a very good chance that these standards are wrong. Can public education ever meet the needs of today's changing job force? Can we even be assured that we're asking an education system to prepare people for jobs that will actually exist by the time that they're ready to get those jobs? You know, I think in many ways we're calling on the K-12 education system to do something that it simply cannot do. And so I would just, like I say, I'm only a messenger here. I'm not an educator. I don't know how things work. Things that they're talking about, it's Greek to me. But yeah, I've just been trained to smell when something's rotten in Denmark. And I think I'm smelling that now. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me today. I appreciate it.